Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. I am your host, Josh Davis, also known as Crash. Today is Saturday, November 11th, 2023, and I am here to go over the Week 10 slate in the NFL. If you're new to the channel, if you would hit the like button and then hit subscribe. After you've done those two things, if you would hit the alarm bell, that will let you know when our newest podcast has gone live. If you're new to DFS Coach Talk, you can join us, send us a DM on Twitter at DFS Coach Talk, or you can email me, jpdavis1982@gmail.com. Just let me know that you want to get in our Coach Talk Discord in our community. We have our NBA special right now, so it's a great time to join us. For $59.99, you will get the entire rest of the NBA regular season, the rest of the NFL regular season and playoffs, and up to the Super Bowl, and then, or actually including the Super Bowl. And then we will also provide Major League Baseball for the spring training and the regular season for a few months up until June, which is when the NBA membership will end. So you'll get all the major sports through June, including PGA, and we might even have a little bit of NHL hockey and Premier League when the other sports are slowing down. So definitely love to have you join us. Our Discord is a very positive, very family-friendly community, so you will definitely enjoy our community of members at our Discord at DFS Coach Talk. So we hope to see you soon. Let's go ahead and get right into the slate. This week, we have the first game is at 1 p.m. Eastern. Well, we do have the game in Frankfurt, Germany. I might as well announce that too. 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Indiana is a 2-point favorite, minus 130 on the money line, a 43 over under. They're hosting the Patriots. I guess they're technically the host. I'm not sure who's the host actually. But anyway, it's the Colts and the Patriots in Frankfurt, Germany. Then we have at 1 p.m. Eastern, the Cleveland Browns in Baltimore taking on the Ravens. Baltimore is a 6.5-point favorite, minus 290 on the money line, has a 38 over under. It's 50-degree forecast with 8-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the northeast. And we have the Houston Texans taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati's a 6.5-point favorite, minus 280 on the money line, have a 47 total over under, 54 degrees, 6-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the east. Then we have the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. San Francisco is a 3-point favorite on the road, minus 170 on the money line. This game has a 45 over under. It's a 16% chance of rain, 71 degrees, 14-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the northeast. We have the New Orleans Saints taking on the Minnesota Vikings. The Saints are a 2.5-point favorite on the road, minus 150 on the money line, have an over-under of 41. We have the Packers taking on the Steelers. The Steelers are a 3-point favorite at home, minus 170 on the money line. 50 degrees, 5-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the northeast, 39 over under, pretty low over under there. We have the Tennessee Titans taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay is a 2-point favorite at home, minus 130 on the money line, 86 degrees. It's pretty warm. I know it's Tampa Bay. It's pretty warm though for November. 86 degrees, wind blowing to the northeast at 6 miles an hour. This game also has a 39 over under, but I don't think it's going to be that low scoring. Tampa Bay and Houston were just in a shootout back and forth, and I would expect something closer to that in this game. Will Levis has really stepped up for Tennessee, so I think it's a favorable matchup. So it could be a higher scoring game than the 39 would suggest. And we have the Atlanta Falcons taking on the Arizona Cardinals at 4:05 p.m. Eastern. Atlanta is a minus 1.5 favorite, minus 125 on the money line. There's no weather because they're in the dome, but 43.5 over under. And we have the Detroit Lions taking on the Los Angeles Chargers in LA. Detroit's a 3-point favorite on the road, minus 160 on the money line, 48.5 over under. It's the highest on the slate. We have the New York Giants taking on the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. 4:25 p.m. Eastern. Dallas is a 17-point favorite and minus 1810 on the money line. 39 over under. So obviously most of the points they're expecting to come from Dallas. Last time they played, it was in week 2. Dallas won 40-0. So I would expect Dallas to win big again, but it is the NFL. So if you want to take a shot at the bet on a parlay, taking the Giants plus 17, I don't think that's the worst play in the world. I think Dallas will win and win comfortably, but 17 is a huge spread for the NFL. Then we have 4:25 p.m. Eastern, the Washington Commanders taking on the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle's -6 favorite at home, -270 on the money line, as a 44.5 over/under, 52% chance of rain, 52 degrees, 5-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the south-southeast. Sunday night, we have the Jets taking on the Raiders in Las Vegas. The Jets are a 1-point favorite on the road, -115 on the money line, has the lowest total on the slate, one of the lowest of the year, 36.5. Then we have the Denver Broncos taking on the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football, 8:15 p.m. Eastern. Bills are a 7.5-point favorite at home, -345 on the money line, 45 degrees, 14-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the west, 46.5 projected over/under. I think that game will probably stay lower than that. I think Buffalo's defense will control that game, but we'll see what happens. Let's take a look at the chat, see if we have any questions. Tough to avoid the chalk this week. I agree. We're gonna try at least somewhat, but that leads us right into the top plays. Probably going to be, like you were saying, pretty chalky. Geno Smith at home. He's 5,800 on DraftKings, 6,900 on Fanduel, $30 on Yahoo. Going up against the Commanders, they've allowed the most fantasy points to quarterbacks this year. They traded away Montez Sweat and Chase Young during the trade deadline, so they're even weaker on defense now. So I definitely think Geno Smith, especially for his price, should be the top play on the slate at quarterback. Then we have Will Levis. As I mentioned, I like him. He's 5,300 on DraftKings, 6,800 on FanDuel, $25 on Yahoo. Going up against Tampa, they've allowed the fourth most fantasy points to quarterbacks this year. CJ Stroud had a monster week against them last week. He had 470 yards passing and 5 touchdowns. Will Levis had a monster game in his NFL debut as a starter against the Falcons, and then kind of came back to earth a little bit against Pittsburgh. So I like him to bounce back a little bit against Tampa. So I think, he's a decent value quarterback. Not a ton of value quarterbacks that I like, but he is one of them. Besides Geno Smith, who's kind of in the middle price range. So a value quarterback I like is Will Levis. Obviously, if you're paying up, you've got Dak Prescott and Lamar Jackson and some of those guys, you can go to. And Joe Burrow is a good matchup against Houston. All right, running back, we have Travis Etienne. He's 7,100 on DraftKings, 8,400 on FanDuel, $32 on Yahoo. He's had his last 4 games. He's had 22 DraftKings points or more. That includes a tough matchup against the Saints. I think it was on a Thursday night. And San Francisco has been pretty solid against the run, but Jacksonville has, they've been relying pretty heavily on Etienne lately, and I think that they're going to continue to rely on him, and he's been pretty matchup proof. So I like Etienne at home against San Francisco. I also like Joe Mixon. He's 6,200 on DraftKings, 7,700 on FanDuel, $23 on Yahoo. T. Higgins has already been ruled out, and Jamar Chase is dealing with a back injury, and he's questionable. So I think the Bengals will rely pretty heavily on Mixon. Houston's been a little below average. They've allowed the 11th most fantasy points to running backs this year. And Mixon's been coming on lately at his 2 best games of the year the last 2 weeks. And this should be another favorable matchup again on Sunday. Wide receiver, probably going to be the chalk. CeeDee Lamb, 8,500 on DraftKings, 8,900 on FanDuel, $33 on Yahoo. He's been the best wide receiver in fantasy the last couple of weeks. He had 32.1 and 44 DraftKings points against the Eagles and the Rams. He was targeted 30 times in those 2 games. I think he's going to have another big game against the Giants this week. They've been pretty average against wide receivers, and they've already ruled out Adoree Jackson. So they're going to be having to deal with playing a rookie, Deontay Banks, a rookie is going to be covering CeeDee Lamb. So that's going to be a tough task. So I like CeeDee Lamb a lot. Also, with Higgins out and Chase dealing with a back injury, I like Tyler Boyd. He's 4,600 on DraftKings, 6,200 on Fanduel, and $14 on Yahoo. Trenton Irwin's another guy you can look at for value. He's near minimum price on all three sites. Tight end, I like Dalton Schultz. He's 4,900 on DraftKings, 6,100 on Fanduel, and $21 on Yahoo. He's coming off his best game of the season last week. He had 31 DraftKings points against the Bucks. He had 10 catches on 11 targets for 130 yards and a touchdown. So he's going up against the Bengals this week. It's another favorable matchup. They have allowed the third most fantasy points to tight ends this year, and he should be lower owned. So I think Dalton Schultz would be a nice play. Also like Jake Ferguson. He probably won't be lower owned. He'll probably be one of the chalkier plays. He's 4,600 on DraftKings, 5,800 on Fanduel, $15 on Yahoo. Coming off of his best game of the season last week against the Eagles. He had 7 catches on 10 targets for 91 yards and a touchdown for 22.1 DraftKings points. The Giants have been pretty good against tight ends this year, but I still think that Ferguson is going to be one of the top targets for Prescott besides Lamb. So I do like Jake Ferguson. And I also like Cade Otton at home against the Titans. I think he's in a favorable spot as well. So he's a nice little value tight end if you're looking for value. Defense, obviously you have the Cowboys. They're going to be super expensive. They're the most expensive on all three sites. They have the best matchup against the Giants. The Giants have allowed the most fantasy points to fantasy defenses, and they were shut out 40-0 in week 2. So Dallas's defense is probably going to be the chalk, but there's well-deserved. I like the Ravens at home against the Browns. The Ravens have been playing really good defense, so I think that's a good matchup for them against Deshaun Watson and the Browns, who are a little bit banged up on offense. Also, like actually the Jaguars, they're the second cheapest defense on DraftKings. They're only 2,400. They are averaging 9 fantasy points per game this year. And Brock Purdy has been solid, but he's struggled a little bit of late. So I do like the Jaguars defense at home against San Francisco. As far as predictions this week, my lock of the week is going to be Seattle over Washington. My upset is the Vikings at +3 over the Saints, which I think it's actually 2.5 now, but still kind of crazy to me. The Vikings have been playing pretty well lately, and they're at home. I know they have Josh Dobbs instead of Kirk Cousins, but Josh Dobbs looked really good in his limited time against the Falcons, and I think that he can definitely continue that against the Saints, and there's an outside chance that Justin Jefferson could play. I saw these questionable, so he's getting close if he doesn't play this week. My prize picks plays of the week. Actually, before I go there, let me look at the chat, see if we have any more questions. Okay, no questions. My prize picks plays are going to be Dontavian Wicks, more than 12.5 receiving yards. He has 40-plus receiving yards in 3 of his last 4 games. So that 12.5 is a little bit interesting to me. So I do like Wicks at more than 12.5. Joe Mixon, more than 0.5 rushing, receiving, or passing touchdowns. He has had a touchdown in each of his last 2 games. I think he gets in the end zone again. And then CeeDee Lamb, more than 77.5 receiving yards. Seems awfully low, especially for someone that's going to be going up against a rookie. He's averaged 155 receiving yards in his last 3 games. So I like CeeDee Lamb over 77.5 receiving yards. And if we don't have, there we go. Think Pollard will reach 100 yards. Total or just rushing? I'm looking to see what he's been doing. I don't think he's gone over 100 in a while. He's actually averaged 40.6 rushing yards over his last 5 games. But as far as total yards, he's gone over 100 once in his last 5 games. He's averaged right under 70 rushing and receiving yards per game. So I would say he probably comes close, but I think he'll go under 100 total rushing and receiving. All right, guys. Well, that is going to do it. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. Hope you join us again next week, and we'll be back for week 11. Hope everybody has an awesome weekend this NFL Sunday and Monday. Absolutely crush it like we always do. And we'll be back again next week as we do look to crush it in NFL, DFS, and Prize Picks. Thank you.